Welcome back, folks. My name is LastKnownMeal, and today we're going to be talking about space, the final frontier. And in the case of the dark future, people are exploring our solar system. So in this video, I will give you a general outline on what is going on in Cyberpunk in space, because we do have Orbital Air in Cyberpunk 2077. Again, we don't know how much it will be used or if it will be used in the base game at all. So let's dive deeper into the lore and see what we can learn. So first off, Orbital Air is a corporation which specializes in cargo and passenger transport to the Earth orbit. Because around the Earth you do have satellites, domes, facilities, corporations that people use, and this map can illustrate what I'm talking about. You can even see the Crystal Palace, which is the biggest space station out there. Not sure if it's still the biggest in 2077, but it definitely is one of the most important ones. And we are still not sure if we will visit that in the game, but for an expansion it could be a very cool place to be at and solve certain things. Although I'm still not sure what V, a mercenary, would be doing there, but why not? You can create an amazing story around it. So who do we exactly have in the solar system? Well, we have ESA, or the European Space Agency. They're definitely one of the strongest out there in space, because ESA was thinking into the future way back in 1998 and hired millions of people from Central African nations, especially after the mass driver in Kilimanjaro was built, which is basically a electromagnetic catapult which is used to get payloads to space. And ESA also primarily focuses on manufacturing and colonization, which means, taking as much space out there as possible and claiming it as your own. Even the Crystal Palace is owned by ESA. The traffic itself is huge in space. After Earth lost pretty much most of its nature and resources became scarce, people looked up to the stars to get the materials from there. And you have thousands of facilities out there that are just factories for getting those materials, refining them and sending them back to Earth. You also have people who are there most of the time in space, or even born in space. They are called the High Riders. They are definitely a difficult bunch because they act differently from the people on Earth. Kinda hard to talk to. They basically have their own culture, language known as the Word, and because they don't hang around Earth, they even developed their own pronunciation of those words, altering them a bit. You even have whole populations of people who live up there, going from 18,000 to even 12,000 people. Of course, besides that, you have LEO, or Low Near Earth Orbit, which is mostly inhabited by weather satellites, the usual that we have today. Meanwhile, in the L zones, you have the most bases and factories because they are the most stable positions that are also close to Earth and Luna. Then we have USAF, or the United States Air Force, or US Aerospace Force. They didn't really have any influence before in space, but after they reactivated some of their programs, USAF developed orbital fighters and weapons designed to knock out satellites, bases, etc. They even have the resources for huge laser satellites and kinetic kill weapons, Star Wars kind of a weapon, like the Death Star. And those were used during the orbital wars when USAF went after Neo-Soviet Union. And that was the most costly war because cost per hour in material destroyed or expended was 2.98 billion euro dollars per hour, which is a lot of money for warfare. But since, US got into a lot of trouble over the years, USAF got their funding down a lot. And they are still struggling, but they do maintain power in space nevertheless. We also do have SRC, which is the Soviet Rocket Corps. They are closely tied to ESA, leasing some vehicles to them, exchanging information, etc. Neo-Soviet Russia basically managed to go from not having any presence in space to huge programs and advertising that created a boom in their economy and overall tech regarding space. Besides them, you also have JAB, or the Japanese Aerospace Bureau. They are very influential actually. They mostly produce, mass-produce cheap, efficient work shacks, for space and for high riders, people who are actually in space. Now, the reason why they're extremely valuable is that in space, Scientific research is one thing, warfare is another, but you do need corporations or countries which are going to mass produce tools and basically work shacks for people up there. So that's why JAB is actually very influential, because they're able to mass produce a lot of those things for space. Besides them, you also have International Electric Corporation. They mostly create weapons, electronics, polymers, nuclear reactors, etc. They got big to the point where they started building their stations in space, and I'm interested to see how they fare in 2077, if they will be mentioned, you know, at all, because keep in mind, a lot of years have passed. There was a time of the Reds, so things in space did definitely change. And in the end, we have the Utopian Corporation. They are the largest orbital manufacturer out there. There is no one even close to them. Over the years, they had various inventions that were so far ahead of everyone else that many companies around the globe invested in them. And they are scary to the point where people are afraid of their new inventions because they can be miles ahead of everyone else, including whole countries. And also regarding spaceport facilities around the globe, there is really a nice illustration showing, all of them in 2025. Keep in mind, this is 2025. Things have changed in 2077, but there were around 42 of them in most continents, as you can see here. But look, besides that corporate, government and science-driven side of space, there is also that entertainment one, or, well, just the money one, for people, since going to space is easier than it was, today. So of course you have some services for people who want to see the low orbit or something similar to that. So yes, companies do offer those services as well. For example, if you want to see the life of a space worker, we have a typical work shack in space with living modules, lab modules, with a lot of room to be in. Actually, they got much advanced from like the first versions of those shacks, etc, etc, and now being in space, being a high rider, being all of that is nothing uncommon. It actually became very common to be in space. Of course, not a lot of people go up there. Many people that were born on Earth stay on Earth. It's not that common, but a lot of people still go up there and they still go for those jobs, or they were hired by corporations, or etc, etc. Again, a lot of this is world building, and it's a bit easier to plan the story in a tabletop game while you can set the game in a specific place or time in that universe. So of course I would love, for CDPR to explore the space in this universe, but again, it's just a speculation. They didn't actually talk so much about space. So for now, we can only guess. But yes, from the lore standpoint, from Artel Sorian and Mike Pondsmith standpoint, space is very much present. And look, this video was just the introduction into space. I can go even further if you want, something regarding the outfits, weapons, space vehicles they use, etc. There were also a lot of misconceptions around, so I wanted to clear it out a bit and tell people the lore regarding that. Thank you everyone for watching. This is everything we have regarding this video. Subscribe today if you want to learn more about Cyberpunk. I will be uploading more of these lore videos. And tell me down below, what do you think about space exploration in the game? And do you think CDPR will ever do it? Also join our growing community on Twitter and Discord, and I do have a Patreon page. If you wanted an extra way to support the channel, you can do it through there, and huge thanks to my current Patreon supporters. This is LKM signing out, and stay classy everyone. Bye bye.